بمثابها وجعلناها رجما للشياطين وأعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير. وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير. إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نذير قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل له من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير. وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير فاعترفوا بذنبهم فسقا لأصحاب السعير. إن الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير. وأسروا قولكم أو اجهروا به إنه عليم بذات الصدور. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير. هو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه وإليه النشور. آمنتم من في السماء أن يخسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور أم آمنتم من في السماء أن يرسل عليكم حسيبا فستعلمون كيف نذير. ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان نكير. أولم يروا إلى الطير فوقهم صافة ويقبضن ما يمسكهن إلا الرحمن إنه بكل شيء بصير. أمن هذا الذي هو جند لكم ينصركم من دون الرحمن إن الكافرون إلا في غرور. أمن هذا الذي يرزقكم إن أمسك الرزق بل لجوا في عتو ونفور. أفمن يمشي مقبا على وجهه أدهى أمن يمشي سويا على صراط مستقيم. قل هو الذي أنشأكم وجعل لكم السماء والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون. قل هو الذي زرعكم في الأرض وعليه تحشرون. ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين. قل إنما العلم عند الله وإنما أنا نذير مبين. فلما رأوه زلفة سيئت وجوه الذين كفروا وقيل هذا الذي كنتم به تدعون. صدق الله العظيم العظيم. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining us for these Muharram lecture series presented by Hussain Youth. We kindly ask you to follow us for up-to-date info on our programs and events through our Instagram page and WhatsApp. Please note that these lectures are available after the end of the program on our YouTube channel. And without further ado, please welcome Sheikh Ahmed Bazi with a loud salawat.
صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Let's begin the majlis with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Let's have another loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad for the love of Fatima alayhi salam. Allahumma salli. And the last one for the love of Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman in your loudest voices. Allahumma salli. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك يا حبيب الله. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله الحسين. يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة. غريب يا مظلوم كربلاء. يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. The first of our salawat will be for the love of Abi Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. The second salawat for the love of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. And the last one for the love of Zainab al-Kubra in your loudest voices. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So yesterday we were talking about the events that were leading us up to Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam leaving Medina towards Mecca, then towards Kufa, and ultimately being stopped on the way to Kufa in a place that we all know to be Karbala. And we said that these events, knowing them specifically, is very important because for us to mirror Abi Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam, for us to mirror the persona, the character of Abi Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam, we have to know more of his life than just his stance on the day of Ashura, or the 10 days that he spent in Karbala, or the 3 months, or the year, or the last 4 or 5 years of his life that some of us may be familiar with. The fact of the matter is, for us to understand Imam al-Hussain and ultimately his revolution, we have to understand how Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam began his revolution. And ultimately, what led Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam to take that critical decision in Medina to move himself and his family and his supporters to Kufa. And why was Kufa the place for Abi Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam? Why was it that Kufa was the place that Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam had hope in and ultimately it turned against him? Why is it that Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam took up arms, and was that the first choice of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam? To understand the events that happened before Imam al-Hussain left Medina is to understand Karbala, to understand Ashura, and ultimately to understand how the Imam alayhi salam was thinking and why he made the decisions that he made. When we put all of these pieces of the puzzle together, the image of Hussain ibn Ali alayhi salamullah becomes clear. But if we just focus on his stance in Karbala, on Ashura, the 10th of Muharram, We only get this much of Imam al-Hussein. We only get a piece of the picture of Imam al-Hussein. But to know Hussein, you need the entire picture. So that's why from yesterday we began discussing what was happening with Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam before he left towards Medina. And we got to the point, let me just mute my computer for a second. And we got to the point where we said, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam now is in a discussion, I would say a passive conflict with Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. And we said that Imam al-Hussein declares his opposition, his clear opposition to Muawiyah and his revolt against Muawiyah, even by just his verbal revolt in Mecca, where he stands up in front of the people, he declares himself to be away from Muawiyah and yatabarra' min Muawiyah. He more or less denounces Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. He denounces him and he says, "O people," he says, "O people, I want to tell you something now and today. And I want you to take it with you to wherever you came from. If you're from Yemen, go back to Yemen and tell your people of what I'm going to say now. If you're in Medina, go back to Medina and tell them what I'm about to tell you right now. If you are from Basra, go back to Basra and tell them what I'm about to tell you right now. Write it down, memorize it. This is going to be my slogan, and this is what I'm going to begin with." Does he tell the people, "Take your swords and march with me"? Does he tell them, "Get your horses ready, we're going towards Syria"? Does he tell them, "I have an army waiting for me in Kufa and here are the letters"? You know what he says? He says, "Let me educate you about why I am who I am and why I'm taking the stand about, or the stand that I'm taking." He says, Allah in the Quran said, إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. Allah in the Quran said about my father this. Allah said about my brother this. Allah said about us Ahl al-Bayt this. And the riwayah says, he mentions all of the ayat, all of the ahadith of Rasulullah that point to them Ahl al-Bayt and speak of their merit and their value. The first step to Imam Hussein's revolution, my brothers and sisters, we said, was not to take up arms. The first stance of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, the first phase of the revolution of Imam al-Hussein was education. Knowing the message. How are you going to revolt? How am I going to revolt? And I don't know the message. The message of Imam al-Hussein is Islam. The message of Imam al-Hussein is Ahl al-Bayt and the virtue that they carry and who they are and what they are to this ummah. To know them is to take the first step towards revolution. And so the Imam alayhi salam told them, the beginning of my revolution, you must understand my message, understand who I am. If you don't understand who I am and what I'm calling for, don't stand with me. I don't need you on the day of Ashura. That's why he had 72 with Imam al-Hussein, not 72,000. Sure, there were some supporters in other places around the world, but the ones who stood were whom? 72. وهو في 70,000 وهو في 70 نفسا هاشمية. 70, 72. Those were the ones that stood with Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Jami, carrying on from what we said, carrying on from here, Imam Hussein now is in Mecca. We're 2 years removed from the death of Muawiyah, and we know that when Muawiyah dies, it was only a few months, and Imam al-Hussein left Medina towards Mecca, then ultimately towards Kufa. It wasn't a long period of time. This speech where Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam stood in Mecca was 2 years before the death of Muawiyah. Jamil. Muawiyah appoints Yazid as the Khalifa. And now Muawiyah has a problem at his hands. First, it was merely convincing al-Hussein ibn Ali. Now al-Hussein ibn Ali is in opposition. He is a clear political opposition to the stance of Muawiyah. Jamil. What does Muawiyah do? Muawiyah writes a letter to his governor in Medina, who at the time was Marwan ibn al-Hakam. Marwan ibn al-Hakam, who's a staunch hater of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salamullah. He tells him, I want you to take the allegiance of the people of Medina. The people of Iraq pledged their allegiance to Yazid ibn Muawiyah. The people of Syria, they pledged their allegiance to whoever stands up on the pulpit. They were very easy. All was left was Al-Hijaz, Mecca and Medina. Imam al-Hussein was living in Medina, and he was the head of the opposition, meaning to seal the deal for Yazid. What did Muawiyah have to do? convince Imam al-Hussein and destroy the opposition in Medina. Jamil. He writes, Marwan ibn al-Hakam writes back and he says the people are against this decision and they're slow to take from me and obey me. So see what you need to do. Who are the opposition? Was it only Imam al-Hussein? No. The most prominent of the opposition towards Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan were 4 people. And some of you are going to be surprised as to who they were. Listen. They were Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab, and I'll explain who these people are just very generally, and Abd al-Rahman ibn Abi Bakr. Imam al-Hussein, we know. Who is this Ibn Zubayr or Abdullah ibn Zubayr? Abdullah ibn Zubayr is the son of Az-Zubayr. Who's Az-Zubayr? Az-Zubayr is the cousin of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And Az-Zubayr was one of the people in the house of Imam Ali when the house of Imam Ali alayhi salam and Sayyidah Zahra was attacked. He was in the house and he tried to defend Imam Ali and Sayyidah Zahra alayhim salamullah. But later on, he betrays Imam Ali. And he stands with al-Mu'mineen Aisha in Ma'rakat al-Jamal. This is Az-Zubayr. He betrays Imam Ali alayhi salam and stands against him in Ma'rakat al-Jamal and tries to kill Imam Ali. This is the first person. Second person, Abdullah ibn Umar. Abdullah, the son of Umar. Umar who? Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second Khalifa. The third, or here the fourth of the 4, was Abd al-Rahman ibn Abi Bakr, which was the son of Abu Bakr, the first Khalifa. So just in the beginning, the opposition was not made up of people with great chemistry, because ultimately they're on different sides of the spectrum and they're on different pages. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is calling for Ahlul Bayt. Ibn Zubayr, his father, tried to kill Ali bin Abi Talib. And then we have the first 2 Khulafa. Jameel? So the chemistry was not there. But ultimately, they were very prominent, these 4, and very, very special in the eyes of the Muslims. So when you had an opposition made up of these 4 individuals, Medina was not going to submit to Muawiyah. Muawiyah understood this. So what did Muawiyah do? When he saw that Marwan ibn al-Hakam couldn't get the job done, he said, these people need somebody a little bit more stern. So he fires Marwan ibn al-Hakam, and who does he put in instead? A man by the name of Sa'id ibn al-As, who was known to be very, very aggressive and violent. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Jazakumullah khair. This Sa'id ibn al-As was known to be very violent, very stern. It said he would persecute and threaten anybody that didn't pledge his allegiance to Yazid ibn Muawiyah. What happened? Still, the people were slow to accept Yazid as the new Khalifa. So, Sa'id ibn al-As writes to Muawiyah again, and he says the people are slow to accept your Khalifa. And the most prominent of those that are causing me problems, Al-Hussein and Bani Hashim and Ibn Zubayr. These ones are my hardest. As for the other 2, maybe we can work them out. But the hardest of the opposition are these. Muawiyah says, no problem. I understood what you said. I myself am going to come to Medina. Muawiyah picks himself up, comes to Medina. Travels from Syria to Medina. When he comes into Medina, he's welcome. When he arrives in Medina, the first thing that he does is he calls for Imam al-Hussein. They sit down. Muawiyah says, why is it that you're not accepting Yazid as my Khalifa? What is it that I have to do to convince you? Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is very passive here. Very passive. What does he say? He says, go to the next one. Nahnu we're opposition of 4. I'm with you right now. Go to the next one. If he accepts this person as the Khalifa, I'm going to accept him as the Khalifa. The Imam alayhi salam is brushing Muawiyah off. He's very passive here. Muawiyah goes to who? Ibn Zubayr. He sits him down. He says, what is it that you need to accept Yazid as your next Khalifa? He says, listen, go to the next guy. Go to the next one. We're opposition of 4. Go to the next one. If he accepts, I accept. Here Muawiyah is getting a little frustrated. It's a game of cat and mouse. He goes to Abdullah ibn Umar and he tries a little softer approach. It's like, let me be a little softer with Abdullah ibn Umar. Let's see what I can do. He asks him the same question. What is it that we have to do to get this to work? Abdullah bin Umar looks at him and he says, go to the last guy and ask him. If he accepts, I'll accept. Here, Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, as we say. He's boiling. He's angry. He's frustrated. He comes to the last one and he says, listen, how dare you disobey me? If you disobey me, I'm going to kill you. Straight. And he lost his cool. The true colors of Muawiyah are starting to show themselves. It's not about Islam. It's not about the nation. It's not about us coming together under the flag of Islam. No, it's my son and I want him to sit in my chair. That's it. Let's get it done. He sees that the opposition doesn't take heed to what he's saying. He tries another thing, another approach. He said, I'm going to sit with the head of the opposition, the one that threatens me the most. And I'm going to sit and have a full-on conversation with him. Forget these other guys. What does he do? He calls on Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam to come and sit with him and just meet. And along with Imam al-Hussain, his cousin Abdullah ibn Abbas. They come and they sit in a meeting. Before Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam arrives, Abdullah ibn Abbas arrives. And Abdullah ibn Abbas and Muawiyah start to discuss. And whenever the topic of Yazid and the Khilafah comes up, Abdullah ibn Abbas tries to swerve the conversation until Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam arrives, because he's the rightful person to be discussing the matter. When Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam arrives, the manipulative Muawiyah brings the pillow to his right side and puts it right beside him, and he says, Tfaddal, come sit beside me, which is a gesture back then in the Arab world. It's a gesture of what we say ihtimam, importance, of this person is sitting beside the Khalifa. He's trying to win Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam over with the things that he would use on the people of Syria to get them to do what he wants. He doesn't know who Imam al-Hussain is, and he doesn't know that these tactics don't work with Hussain ibn Ali alayhi salam. They sit down, and Muawiyah begins praising Yazid. He begins to say he's a very mature man. He knows the Quran. He understands politics. He understands siyasa. He understands how to make decisions that are best fit for the nation. Begins to praise Yazid. Imam Hussain said, listen. All the words that you're saying and all your praise to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and your praise to your son does not change the fact that your son plays with dogs, parties and dances, drinks alcohol, and he begins to list the vices of Yazid ibn Muawiyah, whether he lists alcohol in this one or not. In other places, he says he drinks alcohol openly, he's openly a fasiq. The fact that you're sitting here and giving me this long speech to explain to me who this Yazid ibn Muawiyah is doesn't change the fact that Yazid is Yazid. He's a young boy. And it doesn't change the fact that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam picked us to be sitting in this chair. And we're not here for the chair. This is me explaining. We're not here for the chair. We are here for the nation. We are here for the nation. And Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam gives him a long answer. Dismantles Muawiyah, makes him look like a small little boy in front of him. And Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam is swaying with him left and right. Muawiyah looks at Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam and he says, he passively threatens the Imam. He says, the forgiver or the forgiving person, their habit is to forgive. Family. He's passively threatening the Imam, saying, if you keep going, we're going to have a different approach. And that approach comes and you're going to see it. Here, Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, he gets up. It said he goes onto the pulpit in front of the Muslimin. And he's trying to send a message to Imam al-Hussain and the opposition indirectly. He begins to speak highly of Yazid, and he threatens anyone that opposes his choice for the Khilafah. It's said after that, he goes and he visits Aisha, al-Mu'mineen. He sits with Aisha, and Aisha says, I heard you threatened al-Hussain and his opposition, his people. Muawiyah looks at her and he says, I don't want to hurt anyone. I want what's best for the nation. SubhanAllah, the manipulative methods of Muawiyah are on full display. In one instance, he's threatening. In the other instance, when he's met head on, he changes the narrative. The riwayah says he goes into his house for 3 days and doesn't speak to anyone, doesn't come out, doesn't see anyone, doesn't allow anyone to see anything, or doesn't allow anyone to come in and see him. He comes out on the 4th day. He stands on the pulpit in Medina, and he gives a speech in which, again, he praises his son and calls everyone towards the Khilafah of Yazid ibn Muawiyah. And he says, he is the best among you. And if I was one of you, I would pledge allegiance to my son. He made him into this prophet, بعد شوي. He made him into this prophet almost. Jameel. Here, Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam says, I'm going to stand up to him in front of everyone and I'm going to meet him head on. He wants to meet me head on, I'm going to meet him head on. So Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam stands up to him in front of the entire crowd and says, you picked someone to become the Khalifa whose lineage, whose family is not better than anyone else here. Is not the best of lineage, does not have the best of fathers, does not have the best of mothers. Muawiyah understands what Al-Hussain alayhi salam is trying to say. So Muawiyah says, as for his mother, then yes, your mother Hussain is from Quraysh and she's the daughter of Rasulullah. But as for his father, Yazid's father, he won over your father, Hussain. What is he referring to? He's referring to the Battle of Siffin, where Imam Ali alayhi salam and Muawiyah, they met in battle. Imam Ali alayhi salam had the upper hand and was going to win the battle. But ultimately, the army of Imam Ali alayhi salam disobeyed him. And Muawiyah was let go. And he was set free. And Imam Ali alayhi salam, in one way or another, it could be argued that he lost the war. Because that's it, his army pretty much fell apart. Which gave birth to another conflict that we can discuss inshallah in another time. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam is listening to this and he says, Yazid is better than me to lead this nation. Muawiyah says, absolutely. And then Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam goes on to speak of the vices of Yazid openly in front of the people. Because if the people of Syria were just going to bow down to Muawiyah, no problem. But the people of Medina were smarter than that. The people of Medina may have been influenced by the propaganda of Muawiyah that this is a mature person, that this person wants best for the ummah. But the people of Medina know the words of Hussain ibn Ali, and they know that Al-Hussain ibn Ali does not point a finger at someone unless that someone deserves to have the fingers pointed at him. And so Imam al-Hussain openly begins to speak of the vices of Yazid. He drinks alcohol. He plays with dogs. He has no limit, fasiq, fajr. And he keeps on going. Here Muawiyah sees that Al-Hussain ibn Ali is not merely someone who's verbally against what Muawiyah is calling for. No, he's trying to rile the masses with him. And now Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan has to take more aggressive measures. What happens? It said Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan leaves Medina towards Syria. He stays in Syria for some time until it's Hajj. And we say, in Mawsim al-Hajj, in the season of Hajj, the Muslims from all over the world, all over the Islamic peninsula, are coming to this one place, and the most influential people are coming. And so if somebody wants to make a stand, it's to be done in Mecca. If Al-Hussain alayhi salam, the Imam, wants to make a stand, it would be in Mecca. And if Muawiyah wants to take a stand, it's in Mecca. What happens? It said Muawiyah goes from Syria, Damascus to Medina once again, then makes his way towards Mecca. And he stays in a place just outside Mecca. When he arrives in this place, he calls on the opposition once again, all four. Imam al-Hussain, Ibn al-Zubayr, Ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Umar, and Abd al-Rahman ibn Abi Bakr. He brings them all in his majlis. When he sits them down, Ibn al-Zubayr begins speaking. And Ibn al-Zubayr aggravates Muawiyah. He doesn't speak in an eloquent, he doesn't speak in a good manner that is suitable for the situation. He aggravates Muawiyah. Now Muawiyah has had it to the top. He said, listen to here and that's it. I'm going to go right now to Mecca and I'm going to get up on the pulpit and I'm going to say what I have to say. If any one of you says anything and calls me a liar, opposes what I'm saying, and responds to me, calling me a liar on the pulpit, the words are not going to come back to him before the sword. Done. He turns to his head of security. He says to him, put 2 men over the heads of each and every one of these men. If they say a word, if they speak anything, kill them on the spot. Muawiyah takes Imam al-Hussain and the opposition with him to Mecca. He stands up on the pulpit, whether it was in Mecca or just outside of Mecca, stands up on the pulpit and says, these prominent Muslims, Al-Hussain ibn Zubayr, Abdullah bin Umar, Abdul Rahman ibn Abi Bakr, these prominent Muslims have just given their bay'ah, pledged their allegiance to Yazid. When the people saw that Al-Hussain and his opposition were not rejecting, they began to pledge their allegiance. Afterwards, some of the people came to Imam Hussain and said, what has happened? The Imam said, we had people over us and we were threatened. We did not pledge allegiance. Here, the letters start flooding into Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam from where? From Kufa. What was so significant about Kufa? Kufa was once ruled by Imam Ali. And so a lot of them were the lovers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. They started to send letters saying that we support you, Ya Hussain. Come to us, and we will support you. Why did Imam al-Hussain go to Kufa? Because he received these letters. But subhanallah, qulubuhum ma'ak, suyufuhum alayk. Their hearts, Ya Hussain, are with you. According to one narration, Imam Hussain is on the way to Kufa, and he hears of the death of the death of his cousin, Muslim ibn Aqil. The person telling him, he says, they have killed Muslim ibn Aqil. وَقُلُوبُهُمْ مَعَكَ وَلَكِنْ سُيُوفُهُمْ عَلَيْكَ. The people of Kufa, their hearts are with you, Ya Hussain, but their swords are against you. They turn against Imam al-Hussain eventually, and inshallah we'll talk about that later. But it was here that the letters began to flood and come to Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Jameel. It said, after some time, Muawiyah falls ill. And the illness, the sickness begins to deteriorate the body of Muawiyah. It said one day he gets up and he goes to the public bath. Back then, as you know, they didn't have running water. They had public baths. He goes to the public bath and looks in the mirror, and he sees that his body's changed and that he's dying. So he says these couplets of poetry. He says, the nights have taken me and dragged me. They've changed who I am, and the days have made me different. They've taken some of me and left some of me, meaning my days are almost over. In a narration, Maytham al-Tammar, one of the great companions of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, the companion of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, was in the ship or in the boat at sea. All of a sudden, a very, very, very strong wind blows over. Maytham al-Tammar looks at the wind. He says, put down the sail. Stop the boat at once. They stop the boat. He says, these are the winds of tribulations. These are the winds of trials, of tests. What's the test? The test is that Muawiyah has just passed away. Muawiyah passing away is the test. But I thought we were waiting for Muawiyah to die so that we will revolt. No. And you're going to see why. The test begins with the death of Muawiyah, not the faraj. Not the happiness and not the rejoicement, not the moment that the Muslims were waiting for to revolt. No. The death of Muawiyah was the beginning of the test, not the end. You're going to see why, inshallah. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Jameel. Muawiyah passes. Yazid ibn Muawiyah does not know that his father passed away yet. It's said Yazid ibn Muawiyah was outside of Damascus. He returns to Damascus 3 days after his father was buried. And he receives a message from his father, the last words of his father, last message of his father to him. Jameel. He stands up on the pulpit. Before I tell you what that message is, he stands up on the pulpit. And he says, my father was a servant of Allah. He took you to different lands and the different seas. He took you from war to war, from conflict to conflict. Me, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be peaceful, which is very surprising. And then it said, Yazid goes back to his house and stays in his house also for 3 days. On the 4th day, he comes out wearing the turban of war, and in his hand his sword. He stands up on the pulpit, looks at the people of Damascus and says, I'm going to fight a bloody war with the people of Iraq. I saw a dream where I was at the shore of a river and that river was flowing with fresh blood. Fresh blood. I wasn't able to cross the river. But when one man came in front of me, I was able to cross it. Who was that one man? A man by the name of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. We all know that person. We all know that name. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad was the one who orchestrated the betrayal of the people of Kufa. When Ubaydullah passed over the river, I was able to pass over the river. Who was with me from the people of Syria to stand against the people of Iraq? The people of Syria say, our swords are with you and for you. Just 3 days ago, we said, I'm going to start with peace. Now the swords are with you and nahna we're with you. Ufidak. Why? What happened? What was the message that Muawiyah left his son? He said, you want to win over the people of Hijaz? You want to win over the people of Hijaz, Mecca and Medina? What you do is this. Be generous to the one that's in front of you. And the one that's away from you, give him false promises. Give him promises. That's how you win over the people of Hijaz. You want to win over the people of Iraq? Every day change the governor. If they want reform, give them reform. Change the governor every day if you have to. If they ask for the governor to change, just change him. These people, at that time, these people just want to revolt against the good and Amir al-Mu'mineen and against the bad in Muawiyah. Whoever they are, they'll revolt against it. Just keep changing them for them. They're going to cling on to this person and then change him. That's how they are. That's how you keep them with you. Just keep changing for them. And they're going to think that you are doing what's best for them. As for the people of Syria, they are your right hand. They are your support. But with one condition. What's that one condition? Don't let them leave Syria. Keep them in Syria. Keep them in their cocoon. Keep them in their comfort zone. Once they leave their comfort zone, they'll change. They were very impressionable, which is the biggest problem in the youth today, The Western youth of today are very similar to the people of Syria. Very impressionable. They will sway with the masses as the masses sway. They will be influenced by your propaganda, Ya Yazid. And as a proof of this, it said when Imam Ali alayhi salam was killed in Kufa, news comes to the people of Syria saying that Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib was killed in Kufa while he was praying. You know the first question that they asked? They said, Ali prays? They didn't know that Ali ibn Abi Talib prayed. That's how much the propaganda was able to take the people of Syria. Jamil. The people of Syria are now standing with Yazid. Yazid feels he has the upper hand. He sends a letter to his governor in Medina, who was now not Sa'id ibn al-As, a man by the name of Al-Walid ibn Utbah. Al-Walid ibn Utbah. He sends him a message. He says, take the pledge of allegiance from the people of Medina. And then he slips in that message one little piece of paper that says, go to Al-Hussain ibn Ali, ibn Zubayr, Abdullah ibn Umar, and Abdul Rahman ibn Abi Bakr, and take their pledge. And if they don't, cut off their heads and send me the head. And this was the beginning of the savagery of Yazid ibn Muawiyah that would exponentially be taken and put on Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam on the 10th of Muharram. My brothers and sisters, these things that were happening were not happening because the people were messed up in the head. No, somebody began it. Somebody san as-sunnah. Somebody began the sunnah. When the leader is willing to go to these measures, Harmala has no problem killing a 6-month-old child. When the leader is willing to kill 4 people in one night and send all of their heads in one night, khalasna, that's it. The likes of Shimr ibn al-Jawshan have absolutely no problem killing whoever he has to kill to get the money, to get the reward, to get whatever he has to get. Al-Walid opens the letter. What does he do? He sends for Marwan ibn al-Hakam, or Marwan ibn al-Hakam is already there, his advisor and a former governor of Medina, and says, what am I to do? I have to kill Al-Hussain ibn Ali. Marwan ibn al-Hakam, as we said, was a hater of Ahlul Bayt. He said, bring them now, the middle of the night, halla, right now. If they pledge, they pledge. If they don't pledge, kill them off. Khalas, we're done. Forget this game of cat and mouse, let's finish. Al-Walid sends a messenger to Imam al-Hussein and the opposition. Where were they? They were in Masjid Rasulullah. He tells them, Al-Walid wants you to come now. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is sitting with Az-Zubayr in the opposition. Az-Zubayr looks at Imam al-Hussein and says, why do you think he wants us to come in the middle of the night? The Imam alayhi salam, he knows Muawiyah has died and he wants us to take the bay'ah for Yazid now. Ibn Zubayr says, I'm not going to go. Abd al-Rahman ibn Umar says, I'm going to go home and shut the door behind me. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam says, I'll go. Ibn Zubayr says, you're going to go and there's danger. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam says, I'm going to take my men with me. Imam al-Hussein assembles 30 men from Ahl al-Bayt, his servants and his muwaleen, his supporters, and says, wait outside the door. If you hear my voice go up or you hear me calling you, come in and save me from the hands of Al-Walid. Imam Hussain alayhi salam walks in on Al-Walid. His men are outside the door. Right? What happens? Imam Hussein walks in and Al-Walid says to him, you must pay your allegiance to Yazid ibn Muawiyah right now. Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, listen, I know how you are and I know what your plan is. I know exactly what you're trying to do. All I ask of you right now is that not for me not to do it now. Because even if I did it now, you're going to want me to do it later on. You're going to want me to do it later on in front of the people. Let me do it in front of the people. Or at least give me time. He didn't say let me do it in front of the people. Give me time. Marwan ibn al-Hakam, he's watching this conversation. Al-Walid is convinced by Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam's proposal. Marwan says no. If you don't take the khilafah from him now, if you don't take the Pledge of Allegiance from him now, you're never going to take it. It's either the Pledge of Allegiance or death. Pledge of Allegiance or death. Imam Hussein alayhi salam looks at both of them and he says, is it you that you're going to kill me or is it him? Which one of you are going to kill me? Which one of you is going to kill me? Then Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam looks at Al-Walid and he says his famous words. Look what he says. He says, Inna ahlu bayt al-nubuwwah wa ma'dinu al-risala wa mukhtalafu al-malaika. We are the people of revelation. We are the one who the revelation comes down to. Wa bina fatah Allah wa bina khatam Allah. With our name, with Ahlul Bayt, Allah begins and with us He ends. ويزيد رجل فاسق شارب الخمر قاتل النفس المحرمة معلن بالفسق ليس لهذه المرتبة ليس له هذه المنزلة. He says, as for Yazid, he's a man that is openly fasiq, openly a tyrant, openly drinks, he kills the respected soul. ومثلي لا يبايع مثله. And a person like me doesn't pledge his allegiance to a person like him. Some historians say when the men outside heard Imam Hussein alayhi salam's voice get louder, they come in. They come in and they save the Imam alayhi salam. Here the Imam alayhi salam has to begin his journey, has to leave Medina. Here he has to leave Medina. Now they are ready to kill Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Now Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam has to hide in his own city. So now Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam chooses to leave Medina towards Mecca, then Kufa. That's why Imam al-Hussein left. That's what happened to make Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam leave. Well, the Imam alayhi salam was not going to Karbala for a war. It's not like he was saying to Yazid, meet me in Karbala and we're going to have a war. No, Imam Hussein was trying to leave for his life. He was trying to safeguard his life and the lives of those around him. So he chose to leave. What did he choose to do before he left? The riwayah says he chose to go to his grandfather's grave. It said in the night he went to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's grave. When he arrived at the grave, the riwayat say a light rose from the grave. Imam Hussein alayhi salam looked at the grave. The last time he's going to see that grave, The The last time he's going to see the city that he grew up in, the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When he saw the light rise from the grave, he said, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. أنا الحسين بن فاطمة. Peace be upon you, O Messenger of Allah. I'm Hussain, son of Fatima. I'm your grandson, whom you left as your heir among the nation. Be a witness that these people have deserted me and neglected me, while refusing to support me. This is my complaint to you until I come to your presence. He continued praying until the morning. The next night, the Imam came back. He prayed at the grave of Rasulullah and turned to Allah, saying, Allahumma inna hadha qabru nabiyyika Muhammad. وأنا ابن نبيك وأنا ابن بنت نبيك. Oh Allah, this grave is the grave of your Prophet Muhammad, and I am the grandson of your Prophet. You're aware of what has befallen me. I cherish virtue and righteousness and detest evil, Ya Rabbal Alameen. The Imam started to weep. Then he put his head on the grave of Rasulullah and fell asleep. In his dream, he sees the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To his right and to his left and in front of him, there were many, many angels. The Prophet came to Imam al-Hussain and said to him, Habibi, ya Hussain, كأني أراك عن قريب مرملا بدمائك مذبوحا بأرض كربلاء بين عصابة من أمتي. Oh beloved Hussein, it's as if I see you smeared in blood, slaughtered on the land of Karbala, and a group of my nation have beheaded you. وأنت مع ذلك عطشانا لا تسقى وضمان لا تروى. And you're thirsty, and they don't quench your thirst, Ya Hussein. Habibi, Ya Hussein, your father and mother and brother have come to me, and they desire to be with you, Ya Hussein. You have such a place in paradise that you'll never achieve unless you die between the hands of Allah. The Imam said, Oh grandfather, I don't want to go back to this world. Please take me with you. Keep me in this grave with you. The Prophet said, you must return back and attain martyrdom and gain whatever rewards Allah has reserved for you. The Imam alayhi salam wakes up from his dream. He goes towards his house. He informs his family members of the dream, and they know that the journey ahead will end with his death. He goes to the grave of his mother and bids her farewell. He goes to the grave of his brother and bids him farewell for the last time. As the Imam is getting ready to leave, Salama, the wife of Rasulullah, comes to him. She says, don't upset me by leaving to Iraq, for I've heard your grandfather, the Messenger of Allah, say, my son Hussein will be killed in the land of Iraq, in a land called Karbala. And I have sand from that land in a glass container, which was given to me by the Prophet of Allah. Imam al-Hussein replies to her saying, oh mother, and I know I'll be killed, and I know I'll be slaughtered, The Imam informed her of what will happen to him, his women, and his children, how some will be killed and others will be taken as captives, and that no one will support them, although the Imam will be calling for help. Salama said, then where are you going? And you're going to be killed. So the Imam said, oh mother, if I don't leave today, I'll leave tomorrow. And if I don't leave tomorrow, I'll leave the day after that. Ya Salama, I swear by God that death must be faced. And I know the day in which I will be killed, and the hour which I'll be killed in, and the grave in which I'll be buried in, just as I know you. I look at it just the way I look at you. And if you want me to show you the place, I'll show it to you, Ya Salama. Imam al-Hussain shows Salama the place where he'll be killed. In the middle of the desert, on his side, there's the Euphrates River, and he will die thirsty. He shows Salama the graves of his companions, and the men who will fight in between the hands of Abi Abdullah al-Hussain. Now it's time for the Imam alayhi salam to leave Medina along with his family. The men were taking the women out of their houses to help them on the camels. The narrators say a youth came out with an honorable, respected woman beside him. He brought her to one of the camels. I asked who they were. I was told the youth is Al-Qasim, son of Hussain, and the woman is his mother, Ramla. Another youth came out with a woman walking calmly beside him. I asked who they were. I was told the youth is Ali al-Akbar, and the woman is his mother, Layla. Each man was bringing a lady or two out of the house until the youth came. He was tall and had a beautiful shining face like the moon. As he walked, it's as if everything was bowing for his presence. He was big and tall and had the dominance of Imam Ali and the honor of Imam al-Hassan. Beside him were two honorable, covered, respected ladies. I asked who they were. I was told, as for the man, he's the moon of the tribe, Abul Fadl al-Abbas. And as for the two women, they are the daughters of Ali, Zainab al-Aqil and her sister Kulthum. This is how Sayyidah Zainab left Medina towards Karbala. She was magnified, honored and taken care of. But I ask, how did Zainab leave from Karbala towards Kufa? She left tied up with tears in her eyes, and she was being whipped by the likes of Shimr ibn al-Jawshan. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. We ask you, Ya Allah, by the right of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, accept this majlis from us, Ya Allah. Accept our amal, Ya Allah. Forgive us for our sins, Ya Allah. Help us in upholding the majalis of Abi Abdullah, Ya Allah. Accept this little from us. Forgive us. Make us from those who learn from the stance of Abi Abdullah al-Hussain. Make us from those who support Ahl al-Bayt and Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman بحق محمد وآل محمد. Let's recite Dua al-Faraj, all of us together with one voice. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. Let's recite Surah Al-Mubarak Al-Fatiha للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والشهداء والعلماء. Before it, aloud, salawat على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. بسم الله. جزاكم الله خير. May Allah bless you.
Thank you, Sheikh, for the enlightening lecture. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight's session, and make sure you tune in tomorrow evening at 9:30 p.m. We look forward to your attendance, and with that, tonight's session is ending. See you tomorrow, inshallah.
I'm going to be ending the